The non-UK born population has hit a record high. But don't worry, everything's fine. So Breitbart and the Daily Mail and some other outlets have been reporting today about the new numbers from the Office of National Statistics. And the new numbers have shown that the non-UK born population has hit a record high in the UK, with 1/10 of people being foreign nationals now. I mean, we've had immigration in the hundreds of thousands for about 20 years. That's how high it's been. And that's even taking into a consideration the people that are leaving the country. It's a crazy amount of people. And the population's shot way up. Breitbart reported the non-UK born population of Britain has continued to surge after the Brexit vote, hitting a record high and approaching 10 million, with as much of the growth down to open borders with Europe. True. Jumping by 3% in 1 year, the non-UK born population surged from 9.2 million in 2016 to 9.4 million in 2017, according to the latest ONS figures that were released this Thursday. The non-British citizen population increased from 6 million to 6.2 million in the year, rising up 4% over the same period, and the number of European Union-born people in the UK rose by 170,000 last year to 3.7 million. Breaking the number down, the Romanian-born population, now this is a really interesting point that Breitbart's noted here out of the ONS figures, is that the Romanian-born population of the UK grew by 80,000 to 390,000, suggesting migrants might be rushing to the UK before border controls are introduced after Brexit. Because Theresa May's made it very clear right from the beginning that anyone who lives in the UK from the European Union will not be permanently settled elsewhere. These people will have rights. So, of course, it makes sense that people are going to be flooding in from Romania if they know that once the deal is done and dusted, and as we learned today, it could be 2023 until the transition period is over, people have got years to just keep on coming in and then be, guaranteed maybe not citizenship, but the right to live here permanently after the Brexit referendum's result has been implemented. Romanian migrants are now as numerous as the Irish-born population, traditionally a significant minority in Britain. Amazing stuff. The Daily Mail went further. They basically just broke down the numbers for us. They say parts of London will swell by 1/5. Now, this is a really interesting bit that I want to talk about today. It's the fact that different areas of the UK are increasing and declining. So it says here, parts of London will swell by 1/5 over a decade. And bear in mind, London's got no room for more people. It's struggling to cope as it is. There's not enough brownfield to even build enough houses that it needs. There's not enough brownfield. There's nothing. They're talking, I've mentioned before, about building above train lines in the UK, in London. That's how serious it is. But still, regardless, it will swell by 1/5 over a decade as immigration helps push England's population to 58.5 million. And more Romanians now live in the UK than Irish. Latest official estimates suggest London will grow by 8.8% in the decade to 2026. I mean, we're already close to 9 million in London, and it will grow by 8.8% in the decade to 2026. City will be home to 9.54 million as birth rate and immigration push up numbers. Every region of England is due to see population rise over the period, ONS says. Nearly half the predicted increase of 1.72 million is accounted for by immigration. So it's not just birth rates, it's people still pouring in from all over the world. Separate ONS figures show Romanian's second most common non-UK nationality. Now, if we look just at London, let's look at the places that are rising the most in terms of population. Now, the places that are seeing the biggest increase in numbers, not just through birth, but through immigration, are Tower Hamlets, Barking and Dagenham, and Hackney. These aren't fluffy, English, traditionally English parts of London. I mean, Tower Hamlets is known, really, Tower Hamlets now is just famous for the huge levels of voter fraud and corruption, and its large Muslim population. That area is on track to increase by 17.8% by 2026 to 354,000. Barking and Dagenham interestingly, Barking and Dagenham is one of the places where the scooters are stolen from, which are then used in central London to commit scooter crime, where people drive past on scooters and take phones and wallets and things like that. I've read before and I've reported before that Barking and Dagenham is one of the places where people go and nick those scooters. And it's another example of a multicultural success story in England. Hackney, again, similar story, 13.3% to reach 309,000. That's a huge increase in numbers. And as I say, these are the multicultural success stories of London. But they're also where crime happens. They're also where people are getting stabbed to death. I mean, these aren't wonderfully traditionally British places to live. But here's the stark difference. Let's look at the areas that are going to decrease. So there's two places noted here in the ONS statistics. BarrowFurness is predicted to go down. The population will go down by 4.6% to 64,400. And Copeland will decrease 4.2% to 66,400. What makes BarrowFurness and Copeland different to these specific areas of London we've been talking about? Well, they're barely affected by migration. Sorry, I know it's an inconvenient truth, some might say, but it's true. BarrowFurness was over 97% white English in 2011. Nothing to do with race here. What this means is it's not affected by migration. It's a traditionally English part of the country. Same for Copeland, actually. It's, again, over 97% white English according to the last census. So multicultural Britain is increasing. The ghettos are getting bigger and more populous. And as these ghettos get bigger and more populous, more crimes being committed, London's turning into a war zone. We've got, and again, as that population increases, the traditionally sort of left-wing immigrant voter base is going to guarantee more wins for Labour. And the more Labour wins in big cities and ghettoised areas like London, the worse it's going to get. Look at Sadiq Khan. Things get worse. He lets them get worse. People vote for people like Sadiq Khan and they get worse. And it's this horrific cycle. And add to the fact that the populations in these areas is increasing. We've got two problems with this. One is the fundamental shift in national identity. Replace the people, replace the culture. Fairly simple concept. And this is especially true if it's done over a very quick period of time. If you replace the people like this, the culture is going to change with it. But at the same time, we've got an economic effect here. And I saw a story that came out today, the same day as this, and it's that the NHS needs tax rises to prevent misery. So the NHS, which came about as a post-war consensus, you know, all the big parties joining together and admitting that maybe we do need nationalised healthcare to look after our own people, and it's something British people are very proud of. Sorry to my American viewers, maybe some Canadian viewers who don't like that. The Brits are very proud of the NHS, and I'll tell you now, it used to work. It used to work. I'm only 25, but I remember as a kid it worked brilliantly. But we weren't completely overrun with immigration back then. But there's a BBC story here that says taxes are going to have to rise to pay for the NHS if the UK is to avoid a decade of misery in which the old, sick and vulnerable are let down, say experts. The Institute for Fiscal Studies and Health Foundation said the NHS would need an extra 4% a year or £2,000 per UK household for the next 15 years. That's an insane amount of money. It said the only realistic way this could be paid for was by tax rises. It comes as ministers are arguing behind the scenes about NHS funding. So multicultural success stories like Hackney and Barking are increasing in population, and places like BarrowFurness and Copeland are decreasing. ONS statistics have showed us that migrants are still pouring in from across Europe and probably will do until 2023-ish, whenever the transition period ends, and they'll probably be given permanent rights to stay here once they get here. And all the while, people are coming from all over Europe, all over the third world, are gaining access to our treasured public services, like the NHS. And now we're being told that because people are coming here who haven't had a chance to actually pay into the system yet, that the British people have to pay higher taxes in order to pay for it. I don't bloody think so. I pay my taxes, everyone else pays their taxes. We pay into a system that benefits us. If other people want to benefit from this system, they've got to spend some time paying into it first. Obviously, there's an imbalance if you bring in people and give them immediate access to public services. We're facing a two-pronged attack in the UK. It's economic and it's cultural. For as long as you bring in people from all over the rest of the European Union, as long as you bring in people from all over the third world, there will be a replacement of people, there will be a shift in culture, there will be ghettoization, there will be demonization, there will be segregation. That's going to happen when you bring in millions of people in a matter of years. Of course that's going to happen. And is it any wonder that in places like London, in places within London where people have been affected by this disastrous state-sponsored multiculturalism project, is it any wonder kids are going out stabbing each other? What do the people of London have to look forward to? And so, let's be honest, what do the people of Britain have to look forward to at this point, except higher taxes, higher immigration, higher levels of segregation, and more violence? If you like that and want to see more, remember to like and subscribe and download the new Rebel app from the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store.